Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we go for an hour reading directly Srila Prabhupada's books every single day, 7 days a week, without fail. Except, of course, when I'm on a long-haul flight and I can't be there. But otherwise, we haven't missed a day in a year, more than a year. Yes. And I want to tell you something. That reliability over time breeds faith on all levels, whether you be a son or a mother or an employee or a constituent or a legislator or whatever. And if you're reliably weird, then you get a reliably weird response. So when we're reliably faithful to Srila Prabhupada and to Krishna, by hearing about him every single day, no matter what, even when we don't feel like it, then eventually he becomes convinced about us. I mean, we may be convinced about him, but we have to make him convinced about us. And this is the way you do it. You chant his name according to the instructions of your spiritual master, and you hear about him every day, no matter what, according to the order of the spiritual master. And wonderful things happen inside. And then, also, automatically, outside. People will respond to you differently. And you'll get not just material success, but spiritual success, and help others to get spiritual success. Okay, let's hear Sanatana Goswami's prayer, glorification of this Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas. In other words, everything in the Vedas is put into this Bhagavatam, and it's made in such a way by Srila Prabhupada, in particular, his translations and the way he expresses himself in English is so poetic and at the same time deep and realized that we can get very high realizations that normally take lifetimes and lifetimes of doing severe austerities to get. We can just get them immediately by associating with Srila Prabhupada. Lucky us. Hare Krishna. Okay, Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, 412 to 416 verses by Srila Sanatana Goswami. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabhu Kalivanto Ditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Padaya Prema Varshakshayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsamyin Madguru Mad Mahadana Madnistadaka Madbhagya Madhananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu Sadhuta Dayin Adinicho Chajakara Anamunchakada Chinmam Premnarit Katayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So here we are, taking a little tour of the universe by the mercy of Shukadeva Goswami and his associates. Can't hear it?
They're saying that your voice is very soft or distant. So may I try and plug it back in?
We have another plan. It looks like we have to execute that new plan pretty soon. Hello. 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 If that isn't any closer, you're in the wrong universe. Or we got the wrong mic, one of the two. Hello. 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 Just like that, isn't it? Just like that. They're laughing because they've been to India a lot. And they know that's how they test the mics in India. Did you re-plug in the that?
The white part?
Yeah. No. Push it in.
I don't think it goes in any further. Is there like a volume button?
You're too hesitant. I'm just gonna... Now see what happens. Okay, all of you out there in cyberspace, it's time to get on your keyboards and let us know what's happening. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. I'm going to go ahead. Okay, here we are, taking our tour through the universe.
Okay now.
Well, there you go. That means you have to be more careful when you put things, when you do things, you got to be careful the first time you put them through because we waste time. Huh?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
You and Hannah does the same thing. She's just too casual. Training. This is Krishna's training. Making you responsible. Reliable over time. Okay. Taking our tour, continuing to take our tour through the universe, by the grace of Srila Shukadeva Goswami, we've reached the 16th verse of the 24th chapter of Canto 5, Srimad-Bhagavatam. My dear king, now I shall describe to you the lower planetary systems, one by one, beginning from Atala. In Atala, there is a demon, the son of Maya Danava, named Bala, who created 96 kinds of mystic power. Some so-called yogis and swamis take advantage of this mystic power to cheat people even today. Simply by yawning, the demon Bala created 3 kinds of women known as Swarini, Kamini, and Punchali. These Swarinis like to marry men from their own group. The Kaminis marry men from any group, and the Punchalis change husbands one after another. If a man enters the planet of Atala, these women immediately capture him and induce him to drink an intoxicating beverage made with a drug known as hataka, cannabis indica. This intoxicant endows the man with great sexual prowess, of which the women take advantage for enjoyment. A woman will enchant him with attractive glances, intimate words, smiles of love, and then embraces. In this way, she induces him to enjoy sex with her to her full satisfaction. Because of this increased sexual power, the man thinks himself stronger than 10,000 elephants and considers himself most perfect. Indeed, illusioned and intoxicated by false pride, he thinks himself God, ignoring impending death. Text 17. The next planet below Atala is Vitala, wherein Lord Shiva, who is known as the master of gold mines, lives with his personal associates, the ghosts and similar living entities. Lord Shiva, as the progenitor, engages in sex with Bhavani, the progenitress, to produce living entities, and from the mixture of their vital fluid, the river named Hataki is generated. When fire, being made to blaze by the wind, drinks of this river and then sizzles and spits it out, it produces gold, called Hataka. The demons who live on that planet with their wives decorate themselves with various ornaments made from that gold, and thus they live there very happily. Purport. It appears that when Bhava and Bhavani, Lord Shiva and his wife, unite sexually, the emulsification of their secretions creates a chemical, which when heated by fire can produce gold. It is said that the alchemists of the medieval age tried to prepare gold from base metal, and Srila Sanatana Goswami also states that when bell metal is treated with mercury, it can produce gold. Srila Sanatana Goswami mentions in this regard mentions in this regard to the initiation of low-class men to turn them into brahmanas. Sanatana Goswami said, Yata kanchanatam yati kangsyam rasa vidanataha tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. As one can transform kangsa, or bell metal, into gold by treating it with mercury, one can also turn a low-born man into a brahmana by initiating him properly into Vaishnava activities. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is trying to turn mlechas and yavanas into real brahmanas by properly initiating them and stopping them from engaging in meat-eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. One who stops these four principles of sinful activity and chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra can certainly become a pure brahmana through the process of bona fide initiation, as suggested by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Apart from this, if one takes a hint from this verse and learns how to mix mercury with bell metal by properly heating and melting them, one can get gold very cheaply. The alchemists of the medieval age tried to manufacture gold, but they were unsuccessful, perhaps because they did not follow the right instructions. Text 18. Below the planet Vitala is another planet known as Sutala, where the great son of Maharaj Virochana, Bali Maharaj, who is celebrated as the most pious king, resides even now. For the welfare of Indra, the king of heaven, Lord Vishnu appeared in the form of a dwarf brahmachari as the son of Aditi and tricked Bali Maharaj by begging for only 3 paces of land, but taking all the 3 worlds. Being very pleased with Bali Maharaj for giving all his possessions, the Lord returned his kingdom and made him richer than the opulent King Indra. Even now, Bali Maharaj engages in devotional service by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the planet of Sutala. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Uttama Shloka, he who is worshipped by the best of selected Sanskrit verses. And his devotees, such as Bali Maharaj, are also worshipped by Punya Shloka, verses that increase one's piety. Bali Maharaj offered everything to the Lord, his wealth, his kingdom, and even his own body. Sarvatma Nivedane Bali. The Lord appeared before Bali Maharaj as a Brahmana beggar, and Bali Maharaj gave him everything he had. However, Bali Maharaj did not become poor. By donating all his possessions to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became a successful devotee and got everything back, again with the blessings of the Lord. Similarly, those who give contributions to expand the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement and to accomplish its objectives will never be losers. They will get their wealth back with the blessings of Lord Krishna. On the other side, those who collect contributions on behalf of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness should be very careful not to use even a farthing of the collection for any purpose other than the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Text 19. My dear King, Bali Maharaj donated all his possessions to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev. But one should certainly not conclude that he achieved his great worldly opulence in Bilva Swarga as a result of his charitable disposition. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of life for all living entities, lives within everyone as the friendly supersoul, and under his direction, a living entity enjoys or suffers in the material world. Greatly appreciating the transcendental qualities of the Lord, Bali Maharaj offered everything at his lotus feet. His purpose, however, was not to gain anything material, but to become a pure devotee. For a pure devotee, the door of liberation is automatically opened. One should not think that Bali Maharaj was given so much material opulence merely because of his charity. When one becomes a pure devotee in love, he may also be blessed with a good material position by the will of the Supreme Lord. However, one should not mistakenly think that the material opulence of a devotee is the result of his devotional service. The real result of devotional service is the awakening of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which continues under all circumstances. Text 20. If one who is embarrassed by hunger, or who falls down or stumbles, chants the holy name of the Lord even once, willingly or unwillingly, he is immediately freed from the reactions of his past deeds. Karmis entangled in material activities face many difficulties in the practice of mystic yoga and other endeavors to achieve that same freedom. Purport. It is not a fact that one has to offer his material possessions to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be liberated before he can engage in devotional service. A devotee automatically attains liberation without separate endeavors. Bali Maharaj did not get back all his material possessions merely because of his charity to the Lord. One who becomes a devotee, free from material desires and motives, regards all opportunities, both material and spiritual, as benedictions from the Lord, and in this way his service to the Lord is never hampered. Bhukti, material enjoyment, and mukti, liberation, are only byproducts of devotional service. A devotee need not work separately to attain mukti. Srila Bilbamangal Thakur said, Mukti swayam mukulitan jali sevate sman. A pure devotee of the Lord does not have to endeavor separately for mukti, because mukti is always ready to serve him. In this regard, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 3:177-188, describes Haridas Thakur's confirmation of the effect of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Kehabali namahaiti haya papachaya, Kehabali namahaiti jivara mokshahaya. Some say that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is freed from all reactions of sinful life, and others say that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one attains liberation from material bondage. Haridase kahena namera e dvipalanaya namera pale Krishna pale prema upajaya. Haridas Thakur, however, said that the desired result of chanting the holy name of the Lord is not that one is liberated from material bondage, or freed from the reactions of sinful life, the actual result of chanting the holy name of the Lord is that one awakens his dormant Krishna consciousness, his loving service to the Lord. Anusangika pala namera mukti papa nasha tahara drishtanta yaiche suryera prakasha. Haridas Thakur said that liberation and freedom from the reactions of sinful activities are only byproducts of chanting the holy name of the Lord. If one chants the holy name of the Lord purely, he attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, Haridas Thakur gives an example comparing the power of the holy name to sunshine. E shlokera artakara panditera gana sabikahe tumikaha arta vivarana. He placed a verse before all the learned scholars present, but the learned scholars asked him to state the purport of the verse. Haridasa kahina yaiche suryera udaya udaya na haite arambe tamera bhaya chaya. Haridas Thakur said that as the sun begins to rise, it dissipates the darkness of night, even before the sunshine is visible. Chaura preta raksha dire bhayahaya nash udaya hoili dharma karma adi parakash. Before the sunrise even takes place, the light of dawn destroys the fear of the dangers of night, such as disturbances by thieves, ghosts, and rakshasas. And when the sunshine actually appears, one engages in his duties. Aichi namo dairam rambe papa adirachaya udaya koila krishna parihaya premodaya. Similarly, even before one's chanting of the holy name is pure, one is freed from all sinful reactions. And when he chants purely, he becomes a lover of Krishna. Mukti tucha parihaya namabhasa hoite ye mukti bhakta hoye lai se Krishna chahi dite. A devotee never accepts mukti, even if Krishna offers it. Mukti, freedom from all sinful reactions, is obtained even by namabhasa, or a glimpse of the light of the holy name before its full light is perfectly visible. The namabhasa stage is between that of namaparad, or chanting of the holy name with offenses, and pure chanting. There are 3 stages in chanting the holy name of the Lord. In the first stage, one commits 10 kinds of offenses while chanting. In the next stage, namabhasa, the offenses have almost stopped. And when one is coming to the platform of pure chanting, and one is coming to the platform of pure chanting. In the third stage, when one chants the Hare Krishna mantra without offenses, his dormant love for Krishna immediately awakens. This is the perfection. Text 21. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as the Supersoul, sells himself to his devotees, such as Narada Muni. In other words, the Lord gives pure love to such devotees and gives himself to those who love him purely. And gives himself to those who love him purely. Great self-realized mystic yogis, such as the 4 Kumaras, also derive great transcendental bliss from realizing the Supersoul within themselves. Purport. The Lord became Bali Maharaja's doorkeeper, not because of his giving everything to the Lord, but because of his exalted position as a lover. Because of his exalted position as a lover of the Lord. Text 22. The Supreme Personality of Godhead did not award his mercy to Bali Maharaj by giving him material happiness and opulence, for these make one forget loving service to the Lord. The result of material opulence is that one can no longer absorb his mind in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. There are two kinds of opulence. One, which results from one's karma, is material, whereas the other is spiritual. A surrendered soul, who fully depends upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, does not want material opulence for sense gratification. Therefore, when a pure devotee is seen to possess exalted material opulence, it is not due to his karma. Rather, it is due to his bhakti. In other words, he is in that position because the Supreme Lord wants him to execute service to him very easily and opulently. The special mercy of the Lord for the neophyte devotee is that he becomes materially poor. This is the Lord's mercy, because if a neophyte devotee becomes materially opulent, he forgets the service of the Lord. However, if an advanced devotee is favored by the Lord with opulence, it is not material opulence, but a spiritual opportunity. Material opulence offered to the demigods causes forgetfulness of the Lord, but opulence was given to Bali Maharaj for continuing service to the Lord, which was free from any touch of Maya. Text 23. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead could see no other means of taking everything away from Bali Maharaj, the Lord adopted the trick of begging from him and took away all the three worlds. Thus, only Bali Maharaj's body was left, but the Lord was still not satisfied. He arrested Bali Maharaj, bound him with the ropes of Varuna, and threw him in a cave in the mountain. Nevertheless, although all his property was taken and he was thrown into a cave, Bali Maharaj was such a great devotee that he spoke as follows. Text 24. Alas, how pitiable it is for Indra, the king of heaven, that although he is very learned and powerful, and although he chose Brihaspati as his prime minister to instruct him, he is completely ignorant concerning spiritual advancement. Brihaspati is also unintelligent because he did not properly instruct his disciple Indra. Lord Vamanadev was standing at Indra's door, but King Indra, instead of begging him for an opportunity to render transcendental loving service, engaged him in asking me for alms to gain the three worlds for his sense gratification. Sovereignty over the three worlds is very insignificant because whatever material opulence one may possess lasts only for an age of Manu, which is but a tiny fraction of endless time. That's a few 100 million years, by the way. Purport. Bali Maharaj was so powerful that he fought with Indra and took possession of the three worlds. Indra was certainly very advanced in knowledge, but instead of asking Vamanadev for engagement in his service, he used the Lord to beg for material possessions that would lie finished at the end of one age of Manu. An age of Manu, which is the duration of Manu's life, is calculated to last 72 yugas. One yuga consists of 4,300,000 years, and therefore the duration of Manu's life is 309,600,000 years. The demigods possess their material opulence only until the end of the life of Manu. Time is insurmountable. The time one is allotted, even if it be millions of years, is quickly gone. The demigods own their material possessions not only within the limits of time. Therefore, Bali Maharaj, the demigods own their material possessions only within the limits of time. Therefore, Bali Maharaj lamented that although Indra was very learned, he did not know how to use his intelligence properly For instead of asking Vamanadev to allow him to engage in his service, Indra used him to beg Bali Maharaj for material wealth. Although Indra was learned and his prime minister Brihaspati was also learned, neither of them begged to be able to render loving service to Lord Vamanadev. Therefore, Bali Maharaj lamented for Indra. Hare Krishna. Text 25. Bali Maharaj said, "My grandfather Prahlad Maharaj is the only person who understood his own self-interest. Upon the death of Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsingadev wanted to offer Prahlad his father's kingdom and even wanted to grant him liberation from material bondage, but Prahlad accepted neither. Liberation and material opulence, he thought, are obstacles to devotional service, and therefore such gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not his actual mercy. Consequently, instead of accepting the results of karma and jnana, Prahlad Maharaj simply begged the Lord for engagement in the service of his servant." Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed that an unalloyed devotee should consider himself a servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Lord. Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayor Dasana Dasana Das. In Vaishnava philosophy, one should not even become a direct servant. Prahlad Maharaj was offered all the blessings of an opulent position in the material world, and even the liberation of merging into Brahman, but he refused all this. He simply wanted to engage in the service of the servant of the Lord. Therefore Bali Maharaj said that because his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj had rejected the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of material opulence and liberation from material bondage, he truly understood his self-interest. Text 26. Bali Maharaj said, "Persons like us, who are still attached to material enjoyment, who are contaminated by the modes of material nature, and who lack the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot follow the supreme path of Prahlad Maharaj, the exalted devotee of the Lord." Purport. It is said that for spiritual realization, one must follow great personalities like Lord Brahma, Devarshi Narada, Lord Shiva, and Prahlad Maharaj. The path of bhakti is not at all difficult if we follow in the footsteps of previous acharyas and authorities. But those who are too materially contaminated by the modes of material nature cannot follow them. Although Bali Maharaj was actually following the path of his grandfather, because of his great humility, he thought that he was not. It is characteristic of advanced Vaishnavas following the principles of bhakti that they think themselves ordinary human beings. This is not an artificial exhibition of humility. A Vaishnava sincerely thinks this way and therefore never admits his exalted position. Text 27. Shukadev Goswami continued, "My dear king, how shall I glorify the character of Bali Maharaj? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the three worlds, who is most compassionate to his own devotee, stands with a club in hand at Bali Maharaj's door. When Ravana, the powerful demon, came to gain victory over Bali Maharaj, Vamanadev kicked him a distance of 80,000 miles with his big toe." I shall explain the character and activities of Bali Maharaj later in the 8th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Text 28. Beneath the planet known as Sutala is another planet called Talatala, which is ruled by the Danava demon named Maya. Maya is known as the Acharya, master of all the Mayavis. who can invoke the powers of sorcery. For the benefit of the three worlds, Lord Shiva, who is known as Tripurari, once set fire to the three kingdoms of Maya, but later, being pleased with him, he returned his kingdom. Since that time, Maya Danava has been protected by Lord Shiva, and therefore he falsely thinks that he need not fear the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 29. The planetary system below Talatala is known as Mahatala. It is the abode of many hooded snakes, descendants of Kadru, who are always very angry. The great snakes who are prominent are Kuhaka, Takshaka, Kaliya, and Shusena. The snakes in Mahatala are always disturbed by fear of Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu. But although they are full of anxiety, some of them nevertheless sport with their wives, children, friends, and relatives. Purport. It is stated here that the snakes who live in the planetary system known as Mahatala are very powerful and have many hoods. They live with their wives and children and consider themselves very happy, although they are always full of anxiety because of Garuda, who comes there to destroy them. This is the way of material life. Even if one lives in the most abominable condition, he still thinks himself happy with his wife, children, friends, and relatives. Text 30. Beneath Mahatala is the planetary system known as Rasatala, which is the abode of the demonic sons of Diti and Danu. They are called Panis, Nivata Kabachas, Kalyas, and Hiranya Purvavasis, those living in Hiranyapur. They are all enemies of the demigods, and they reside in holes like snakes. From birth they are extremely powerful and cruel, and although they are proud of their strength, they are always defeated by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who rules all the planetary systems. When a female messenger from Indra named Sarama chants a particular curse, the serpentine demons of Mahatala become very afraid of Indra. Purport. It is said that there was a great fight between these serpentine demons and Indra, the king of heaven. When the defeated demons met the female messenger of Sarama, who was chanting a mantra, they became afraid, and therefore they are living on the planet named Rasatala. Text 31. Beneath Rasatala is another planetary system known as Patala, or Nagaloka, where there are many demoniac serpents, the masters of Nagaloka, such as Shanka, Kulika, Mahashanka, Shweta, Dhananjaya, Dhritarashtra, Shankachuda, Kambala, Ashwatara, and Devadatta. The chief among them is Vasuki. They are all extremely angry, and they have many, many hoods. Some snakes 5 hoods, some 7, some 10, others 100, and others 1,000. These hoods are bedecked with valuable gems, and the light emanating from the gems illuminates the entire planetary system of Bila Swarga. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 24th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Subterranean Heavenly Planet. Jai, Srila Shukadeva Goswami ki Jai, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jai. And here we go. Chapter 25. The Glories of Lord Ananta. In this chapter, Shukadeva Goswami describes Ananta, the source of Lord Shiva. Lord Ananta, whose body is completely spiritual, resides at the root of the planet Patala. He always lives in the core of Lord Shiva's heart, and he helps him destroy the universe. Ananta instructs Lord Shiva how to destroy the cosmos, and thus he is sometimes called Tamasi, or one who is in the mode of darkness. He is the original deity of material consciousness, and because he attracts all living entities, he is sometimes known as Sankarsana. The entire material world is situated on the hoods of Lord Sankarsana. From his forehead, he transmits to Lord Shiva the power to destroy this material world. Because Lord Sankarsana is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, many devotees offer him prayers, and in the planetary system of Patala, all the Suras, Asuras, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, and learned sages offer him their respectful obeisances. The Lord talks with them in a sweet voice. His bodily construction is completely spiritual and very, very beautiful. Anyone who hears about him from a proper spiritual master becomes free from all material conceptions of life. The entire material energy is working according to the plans of Anantadev. Therefore, we should regard him as the root cause of the material creation. There is no end to his strength, and no one can fully describe him, even with countless mouths. Therefore, he is called Ananta, unlimited. Being very merciful toward all living entities, he has exhibited his spiritual body. Shukadeva Goswami describes the glories of Ananta Dev to Maharaj Parikshit in this way. Text 1. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said to Maharaj Parikshit, "My dear king, approximately 240,000 miles beneath the planet Patala lives another incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the expansion of Lord Vishnu, known as Lord Ananta or Lord Sankarsana. He is always in the transcendental position, but because he is worshipped by Lord Shiva, the deity of Tamoguna or darkness, he is sometimes called Tamasi. Lord Ananta is the predominating deity of the material world mode of ignorance, as well as the false ego of all conditioned souls. When a conditioned living entity thinks, I am the enjoyer, and this world is meant to be enjoyed by me, this conception of life is dictated to him by Sankarsana. Thus, the mundane conditioned soul thinks himself the Supreme Lord. Purport. There is a class of men akin to Mayavadi philosophers who misinterpret the Aham Brahmasmi and Soham Vedic mantras to mean I am the Supreme Brahman and I am identical with the Lord. This kind of false conception, in which one thinks himself the supreme enjoyer, is a kind of illusion. It is described elsewhere in Srimad-Bhagavatam 5.5.8, Janasya moho yamaham mameti. As explained in the above verse, Lord Sankarsana is the predominating deity of this false conception. Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasya chaham ridi sanavisto matak smritir jnanam apoanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart as Sankarsana, and when a demon thinks himself one with the Supreme Lord, the Lord keeps him in that darkness. Although such a demoniac living entity is only an insignificant part of the Supreme Lord, he forgets his true position and thinks he is the Supreme Lord. Because this forgetfulness is created by Sankarsana, he is sometimes called Tamasi. The name Tamasi does not indicate that he has a material body. He is always transcendental. But because he is the super soul of Lord Shiva, who must perform tamasic activities, sometimes he is sometimes called tamasi. So that I at the end, tamasi, means the source of. Like avatar and avatari. Avatari means the source of all avatars. Text 2. Shukadeva Goswami continued. The great universe, situated on one of the Lord Anantadev's thousands of hoods, appears just like a white mustard seed. It is infinitesimal compared to the hood of Lord Anantadev. Text 3. At the time of devastation, when Lord Anantadev desires to destroy the entire creation, he becomes slightly angry. Then, from between his two eyebrows, appears three-eyed Rudra carrying a trident. This Rudra, who is known as Sankarsana, is the embodiment of the 11 Rudras, or incarnations of Lord Shiva. He appears in order to devastate the entire creation. Purport. In each creation, the living entities are given a chance to close their business as conditioned souls. When they misuse this opportunity and do not go back home, back to Godhead, Lord Sankarsana becomes angry. The 11 Rudras, expansions of Lord Shiva, come out of Lord Sankarsana's eyebrows due to his angry mood, and all of them together devastate the entire creation. Text 4. The pink, transparent toenails on the Lord's lotus feet are exactly like valuable gems polished to a mirror finish. When the unalloyed devotees and the leaders of the snakes offer their obeisances to Lord Sankarsana with great devotion, they become very joyful upon seeing their own beautiful faces reflected in his toenails. Their cheeks are decorated with glittering earrings, and the beauty of their faces is extremely pleasing to see. 5. Lord Ananta's arms are attractively strong, beautifully decorated with bangles, and completely spiritual. They are white, and so they appear like silver columns. When the beautiful princesses of the separate kings, hoping for the Lord's auspicious blessings, smear his arms with aguru pulp, sandalwood pulp, and kumkum, the touch of his limbs awakens lusty desires within them. Understanding their minds, the Lord looks at the princesses with a merciful smile, and they become bashful, realizing that he knows their desires. Then they smile beautifully and look upon the Lord's lotus face, which is beautified by reddish eyes rolling slightly from intoxication and delighted by love for his devotees. Purport. When males and females touch each other's bodies, their lusty desires naturally awaken. It appears from this verse that there are similar sensations in spiritual bodies. Both Lord Ananta and the women giving him pleasure had spiritual bodies. Thus, all sensations originally exist in the spiritual body. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented in this connection that the word Adi means Adi Rasa, the original lusty feeling, which is born from the Supreme. However, spiritual lust and material lust are as completely different as gold and iron. Only one who is very highly elevated in spiritual realization can understand the lusty feelings exchanged between Radha and Krishna, or between Krishna and the damsels of Braja. Therefore, unless one is very experienced and advanced in spiritual realization, he is forbidden to discuss the lusty feelings of Krishna and the gopis. However, if one is a sincere and pure devotee, the material lust in his heart is completely vanquished as he discusses the lusty feelings between gopis and Krishna, and he makes quick progress in spiritual life. Text 6. Lord Sankarsana is the ocean of unlimited spiritual qualities, and thus he is known as Anantadeva. He is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the welfare of all living entities within this material world, he resides in his abode, restraining his anger and intolerance. Purport. Anantadeva's main mission is to dissolve this material creation, but he checks his anger and intolerance. This material world is created to give the conditioned souls another chance to go back home, back to Godhead. But most of them do not take advantage of this facility. After creation, they again exercise their old propensity for lording over the material world, lording it over the material world. These activities of the conditioned souls anger Anantadeva, and he desires to destroy the entire material world. Yet because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is kind toward us and checks his anger and intolerance. Only at certain times does he express his anger and destroy the material world. It's like a father giving enough chances, and once there's a line, one can't go over that line. Text 7. Shukadeva Goswami continued, the demigods, the demons, the Uragas, serpentine demigods, the Siddhas, the Gandharvas, the Vidyadharas, and many highly elevated sages constantly offer prayers to the Lord. Because he is intoxicated, the Lord looks bewildered, and his eyes, appearing like flowers in full bloom, move to and fro. He pleases his personal associates, the heads of the demigods, by the sweet vibrations emanating from his mouth. Dressed in bluish garments and wearing a single earring, he holds a plough on his back with his two beautiful and well-constructed hands. Appearing as white as the heavenly king Indra, he wears a golden belt around his waist and a Vaijayanti garland of ever-fresh tulsi blossoms around his neck. Bees intoxicated by the honey-like fragrance of the tulsi flowers hum very sweetly around the garland, which thus becomes more and more beautiful. In this way, the Lord enjoys his very magnanimous pastimes. Text 8. If persons who are very serious about being liberated from material life hear the glories of Anantadeva from the mouth of a spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession, and if they always meditate upon Lord Sankarshan, the Lord enters the cores of their hearts, vanquishes all the dirty contamination of the material modes of nature, and cuts to pieces the hard knot within the heart, which has been tied tightly since time immemorial by the desire to dominate material nature through fruitive activities. Narada Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, always glorifies Anantadeva in his father's assembly. There he sings blissful verses of his own composition, accompanied by his stringed instrument, or a celestial singer, known as Tumburu. Purport. None of these descriptions of Lord Anantadeva are imaginary. They are all transcendently blissful and full of actual knowledge. However, unless one hears them directly from a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession, one cannot understand them. This knowledge is delivered to Narada by Lord Brahma, and the great Saint Narada, along with his companion Tumburu, distributes it all over the universe. Sometimes the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Uttama Shloka, one who was praised by beautiful poetry. Narada composes various poems to glorify Lord Ananta, and therefore the word Sangshlokayam Asa, praised by selected poetry, is used in this verse. The Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya belong to the disciplic succession stemming from Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the spiritual master of Narada. Narada is the spiritual master Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad-Bhagavatam as a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Therefore, all devotees of the Gaudiya Sampradaya accept the activities of Lord Ananta related in the Srimad-Bhagavatam as authentic, and they are thus benefited by going back home, back to Godhead. The contamination in the heart of a conditioned soul is like a huge accumulation of garbage created by the three modes of material nature, especially the modes of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance. This contamination becomes manifest in the form of lusty desires and greed for material possessions. As confirmed herein, unless one receives transcendental knowledge in disciplic succession, there is no question of his becoming purified of this contamination. So I'll stop the reading here. I'll start our reflections by one of my own. I don't usually do this, but this is just too nice. This, of all the things we read today, this struck me like a thunderbolt. None of these descriptions of Lord Anantadeva are imaginary. They are all transcendently blissful and full of actual knowledge. However, unless one hears them directly from a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession, one cannot understand them. So this is a personal a realization of mine, or a personal desire, is why I decided to make this vow and just to read Srila Prabhupada directly, clearly, loudly and clearly, every day, all the way through the Bhagavatam Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And because of this, we're hearing it directly from Srila Prabhupada, and therefore there's a chance that we can understand them. And without doing this, I don't think it's possible. And in our Bhagavatam classes, we hear one verse and one purport. But when you hear this many verses and purports all together, hey, it has a really strong effect. Is it not? Is it true? It's very true. Okay, that's my realization for the day. Reflection. And now we have our open mic. Anybody who has questions or wants to reflect or further discuss something you heard in this wonderful chapter?
Please.
Yes, Bhakta Marcus.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Bhakta Marcus.
Thank you for the reading. So earlier we read that a true devotee doesn't accept liberation. However, it's my conception of being in this, of doing this, in a devotional service, that the goal is to achieve liberation. Could you please clarify?
Well, in the beginning, it's natural, but as our hearts become purified, and as we go deeper into what the reality is, eventually we will realize that liberation is, compared to pure love of God, liberation is an insignificant speck or an insignificant drop in an ocean. But until we've actually understood that, yeah, naturally we'll want to get out of this material world because it's an ocean of sufferings. We don't want to suffer anymore. So naturally, our first thing is want to be liberated. But liberation is a temporary accomplishment. It's not permanent because, of course, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was liberated or was delivered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to glorify the Lord Chaitanya, and in order to forcefully reject his previous conception of what liberation is, he chanted for Lord Chaitanya this verse Tate Nukampam Susamikshimana. And at the end of that verse, the word is used, Mukti Pade Bayabak, Mukti Dayabak. And he wanted to change that word to bhakti. And Lord Chaitanya said, you can't change the word of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's Krishna's word, and it means bhakti. So, in other words, the word mukti, ultimate mukti, eternal mukti, means bhakti. The words are interchangeable. But before you understand that, you will think that mukti means to get out of this material world and merge into the spiritual energy of the Lord. And that's what the conception of moksha is in the minds of most people in India. That's what the conception is. Usually when they think of moksha, they think of getting out of the material world and merging into the effulgence of the Lord.
The impersonal effulgence,
yes.
Right? Okay.
And that's what mukti means in most people's minds, most spiritualists' minds, actually.
Okay.
But as is stated again and again and again in the Bhagavatam, the pleasure that Krishna feels when one of his liberated associates in Goloka Vrindavan plays with him and comes behind him and splashes him with water. You know, when we're playing with water, when we were kids,
Yes.
some people may do this, I don't do it anymore, but when we were kids, we'd come and splash, and we all gang up on one person and splash him, and we enjoy. So we can do that with Krishna. And the persons who are after so-called liberation, they don't understand that liberation, that kind of liberation is contained within the bhakti conception. It's not that you don't get liberation when you go to the spiritual world. You're out, you remove yourself from the material world, but not only that, your spiritual senses are again awakened or expanded, and you can have all of the different varieties of activities and pleasure with Lord and with the Lord's eternal associates. Eternally.
Okay.
Fully. Unlimitedly. So why should the devotees don't need liberation? They don't even think, it's disgusts them, the thought of liberation. Because the thought of liberation without Krishna consciousness, which is throughout impersonal teachings and interpretations of these books, to the devotee, it appears like hell, because they can't serve the Lord, they can't embrace Him, they can't run around, they can't play with Him, they can't kiss Him, they can't hug Him, they can't do the things that we do in order to express, loving feelings. And that's what love of God is. But it's so rare, it's rarely achieved. Therefore it says, and I'll repeat it again, unless one hears them directly from a bona fide spiritual master in the land of civilization, one cannot understand them.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You're an intercessor.
I'm what?
Like an intercessor.
That's why I'm just trying to read Prabhupada straight. I don't know nothing, but Prabhupada knows everything. And when I read it straight, actually, he empowers me to say the right thing, to remember what he told me all these years. So stick around, keep hearing like this for 40, 50 years, and then you'll be able to repeat it without changing it in a way that will bring other people to the proper understanding, and you will get a happiness that is so much far beyond liberation that
you won't even be. That's what it says here. Prahlad Maharaj is liberation. No, why should I have liberation? I've got you. What, liberation? No, I don't think so.
What a great succession. Now I'm like, when I hear you speak, like yesterday, when I heard you speak, like man, like so many like songs I have listened to before even coming here. You can say a year, you can say 2 years, you can say 3 years. So I've been on my journey for a minute. So it's like, but wisdom is infinite, knowledge is infinite. Knowledge is infinite. So I'm like, man, like when I'm listening to you though, it's like all these songs, like these verses are popping back in my head, and I'm like, it's like you haven't picked up that book in a while. It could be a particular text, it could be a particular verse, and you go back over it. It's like going to get a glass of water, right? You're so thirsty, it's like going to get that cup and then going back to the fountain. Like, just give me that water. Just give me that water. Drink. So it's like, thank you. It's like, it's refreshing.
Yes.
Very refreshing.
Yes. Correct. Thank you. Yes, Bhakti Doug.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering about this verse 4 in chapter 25. It's talking about the devotees, the unalloyed devotees, when they're offering their obeisances to Lord Sankarshan with great devotion, they become very joyful upon seeing their own beautiful faces reflected in his toenails. Can you explain the meaning behind that a little bit more?
The meaning behind it?
Yeah.
Well, when you look in the mirror, and the mirror, they have different kinds of mirrors. Did you know that? They have flattering mirrors and unflattering mirrors, Sometimes you look in a mirror and you go, and then you go into another mirror. Well, it's not so bad as I thought. So it's like that. So the toenails of the Lord are polished and they're mirror-like, but they're the most flattering mirrors that exist. So when you look in them, then you can see some goodness in yourself. You can see that you're a devotee.
Okay.
And therefore you can see the beauty of devotional service. Huh?
I think I see how that works.
Mirror, mirror in the wall.
So would it like reflect pretty much the image that God, Krishna, sees of you back to you?
No, it means you see it means that they're looking at their own reflection in the mirror, but it's so wonderful, that you can see that you can see how wonderful he is. Just like when you look in a favorable mirror, you may think more favorably about the person who made the mirror. Oh, that guy knew what he was doing. This other mirror, he didn't know what he was doing. Like that. Everything about Krishna and his expansions is unlimitedly opulent, unlimitedly beautiful, unlimitedly wise, everything. So the more we associate with him, the more we become like him. We already are like him, but it becomes manifest. So we already are like that, but it becomes manifest. We have something from cyberspace?
We do, Maharaj. This one is from Rasa Rasika.
Hare Krishna, Rasa Rasika.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. If we receive by the Lord's arrangement some material opulence, if that opulence is not necessarily a result of our attempts to render service, why else would the Lord bestow material opulence on a devotee?
He bestows opulence on a devotee if the devotee wants it, if the devotee likes it. But if you get an opulence from the Lord because you want it, then he will give it, but he'll give it in a way that you won't ask for it again for your own opulence. In other words, either you make a mess of it, or it'll be taken away and you'll become forlorn or whatever. But on the other hand, the Lord's very kind. So if He gives you an opulence and then you use that opulence, even though you ask for it for your own benefit, and then you, just like Dhruva Maharaj, he asked the Lord for an opulence for himself, a kingdom better than his own father and grandfather, which is like impossible to fulfill, because that means, his grandfather was Brahma. He wanted to, that's the whole universe. So he wanted a kingdom more than the universe. And he was only 5 years old, right? So, but then what happened was, and then he met Narada Muni, who was a bona fide spiritual master representative of Krishna, and he told him, "What are you doing out here out in the woods when you're 5 years old? Go back home. Come back later. You should be playing right now. What are you doing?" And Dhruva was so much a Kshatriya nature. He was so angry from having been insulted by his mother and his stepmother and father, that he just said, "No, you tell me now what I have to do to get that." And then Narada said, "Oh, this boy's really determined." So then he told him what to do, and he did it. And then when he did it, he saw Vishnu face to face. And as soon as he saw Vishnu face to face, he lost his desire for anything material. So then when the Lord said, "So what do you want?" And he says, "Nothing. I'm so sorry. I came to you for, a bag full of, broken glass, and I got the rarest gems. I'm completely satisfied. I don't want anything." So Krishna says, "Okay, so what I'll do is, you can live in the world for 36,000 years and take charge of it, and I'll give you the Dhruva Loka, which is my own planet, which is above Lord Brahma, and you can enjoy opulence more than you can imagine. And at the same time, you'll go back to Godhead. You won't become materially contaminated." So that's what happens when a person gets the material opulence. He asks for the Lord. If he's qualified, then he will use that opulence completely in the service of the Lord. This is a way of being able to judge whether or not we're getting a material opulence or facility that seems to make our life easier, whether it's being sent by the Lord or whether it's being given to us by Maya. If it's given by Maya, then either we'll fall down or we won't be able to use it in Krishna's service. But if we use it for Krishna's service, if we can use it for Krishna's service successfully, then it's sent by Krishna. This is the symptoms. This is the symptom of being given a material facility by Krishna, as opposed to being given by Maya. It being given by Maya.
Another question.
Another question.
Yeah, this one is by Vilas Manjari Das.
Hare Krishna Vilas Manjari.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, in text 30, quote, "Although they are proud of their strength, they are always defeated by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Lord," end quote. The Sudarshan Chakra, being the source of death or defeat for some living entities in lower planets, has been mentioned a few times in last few readings. What does this mean?
It means that in different places in the material world, there are different ways for Krishna to reveal to the conditioned soul what the reality is. It's like if a father has a son that is, well behaved and obedient, and he puts him into the plugs him into the system of his business, for instance, or whatever, to learn some, and he does really nicely, and he's learning, then he gives him, facility. But if he doesn't, then he'll treat him, he'll deal with him differently, So it's like that. So in certain places in the universe where the persons who are demoniac, then Krishna, he'll deal with them differently than he'll deal with people who are in places where they feel like serving him, when they feel like assisting and cooperating. The difference between the demon and the devotee is that the demon doesn't want to follow the natural order of things. They like to turn everything upside down. I've used this name so many times, I won't bother to say it again, but some people like to turn the order upside down. Hiranyakashipu did that. When he went off to do his austerities, he sent his henchmen to just turn everything upside down. Burn all the villages, kill the Brahmins, kill the cows, uproot any pious plants that give happiness and health, and that's what demons want to do. They just like turning things upside down. So some of the living entities in those lower planets are demoniac and angry by nature, and therefore Krishna reciprocates with him like that. Yeyatam mam prapadyante tang stataiva bhajamyaham mamavart manavartante manushak parta sarvashaha. As they approach me, Krishna says, I reward them accordingly. So if you ignore him, he'll ignore you. If you come to him with an embrace, he'll embrace you back. And if you hate him, he'll kill you. But he's so kind, he'll give you liberation. By killing you, you'll get liberation. Of course, you have to become really a big demon to get, deserve to be killed by him directly. So sometimes he sends the Sudarshan Chakra, Garuda, or a servant that just happens to have a nature that can deal with those kinds of problems. The snakes, Garuda he's not vegetarian, he's a pure devotee. He's a bird, so he's the king of all birds, so he likes snakes, so he goes there, kind of balances things, Okay? It's the time I have to take rest because I have to get up early and do my thing tomorrow morning. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, everybody out in cyberspace. Please share, if you like. Please share to others and increase the number of persons who can hear Prabhupada every night. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you. Same time, same station tomorrow. See you then. Hare Krishna.